My fellow Americans, what we're witnessing right now is nothing short of a quiet revolution in our education system, and it's not happening in Washington, D.C. No, it's happening in the heart of America, in places like Alabama, Louisiana, and across the South where real leaders are standing up, parents are waking up, and our children are finally being given a fighting chance. For far too long, we've been told that government-run education is the only option, that big bureaucracy knows best, that the Department of Education, a monster of federal overreach, is the only way to save the kids. Well, let me tell you something. The numbers are in, and the truth is loud and clear. Charter schools are rising. Public schools are stagnating. And the difference? It's all about freedom, competition, and local control. This video you're about to hear me react to, it's from a recent Senate discussion where brave patriots dared to ask the right questions. And what they revealed should send shockwaves through every household in this country. If you've got kids, grandkids, or care about the future of this republic, stick around, because the Southern surge is real, and it's time to take our schools back.
Thank you, Senator King. Mr. Barnett, we've had tremendous growth in the number of students across America enrolling in charter schools, over 4 million students to be exact. How does that success of charter schools impact our district public school system?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there are really two large national studies that speak to this. One comes out of the Progressive Policy Institute and another comes out of the Fordham Institute. Both actually show that the presence of charter schools has in some way improved outcomes within district schools. There's a certain threshold that the Progressive Policy Institute's study showed, somewhere around 30%. So the presence of charter schools that give up to 30% of students in a given market the opportunity to enroll has positive net impact on not only charter school performance, but also district performance.
Yeah. Why are we seeing literacy stats rise in charter schools versus public schools? Why is that happening?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, Senator?
Why is the literacy rate rising? In other words, we're having better scores in charter schools and not as well in public schools.
Well, I can really only speak to the results in Alabama. Alabama has adopted the science of reading by law as mandatory. Every charter school participates in what we call letters training, which is essentially teaching teachers how to implement the science of reading. And that's through the Alabama Reading Initiative. And so statewide in Alabama, reading scores are improving, and the latest NAEP scores show that. They are also improving among charter schools, and our charter schools are improving at a faster rate currently in the state of Alabama, writ large. What I would say is we do have a number of districts where, at least within specific schools, we are not seeing those trends. And I'll use Birmingham City Schools as an example. Birmingham City Schools, 43 schools in the district. There are still 2 schools in that district where 1% or fewer of kids are proficient in reading outcomes. There are a number of schools in the district, 7 schools, I believe, where 0 to 1% of kids are proficient in reading or math, and there are 13 schools where less than 5% are proficient in either subject. So it's still a problem, but I think it's kind of localized a little bit more in Alabama.
Ms. Wicks, you talked about teacher preparedness and professional development in your testimony. How important is preparing our educators to teach the science of reading method?
Let's start with the numbers. Over 4 million students are now enrolled in charter schools across the United States. And guess what? Studies from both the Progressive Policy Institute and Fordham Institute, not exactly conservative think tanks, by the way, show that the presence of charter schools doesn't just help their own students. It helps public school students too. They found that once 30% of a student population has access to charter schools in a given area, even the district-run schools start improving. Why? Because competition works. You can't run a failing school when a better option is down the block. Now let's talk literacy. You know how the left always says they care about education? Then explain this. In Alabama, where the science of reading is law, and where charter school teachers are properly trained, students are outperforming their public school counterparts by miles. I'm talking about serious gains here. Meanwhile, in places like Birmingham City schools, we have schools where 0 to 1% of kids are proficient in reading or math. That's not just a tragedy, it's a crisis. And what's causing it? According to the testimony in the video, only 25% of teacher prep programs are teaching the right way to teach reading. Even worse, 40% are teaching flat-out nonsense. That's what happens when you let bureaucrats with no classroom experience write policy. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the Trump administration gets brought into this. There are critics who say expanding school choice under Trump was an attack on public schools, but the truth is the opposite. The expansion of school choice has been a lifeline for thousands of families. And President Trump's push to scale back the Department of Education? Long overdue. The feds have no business micromanaging our kids' learning from Capitol Hill. When President Trump signed that executive order to support educational freedom and urged the Education Secretary to look into dismantling the Department of Education within federal law, you know what that was? That was an act of patriotism, giving power back to the states, to parents, to teachers who actually want to teach, not file paperwork for D.C.
Senator, thank you for that important question. It's critical that we give educators the right preparedness to understand this issue and be able to deploy it in their classrooms. I referenced in my opening remarks that only 25% of educator prep programs are currently teaching the science of reading to their aspiring teachers. And even worse, about 40% of them are teaching the wrong stuff. So they're teaching these brand new teachers the wrong way to teach reading. If they're interested in more, the National Council on Teacher Quality put out that report. They're the best at studying teacher prep programs. And I think this comes down to a matter of state leadership and accreditation. They make some recommendations about the importance of setting state standards for what these programs need to be teaching. Have some way to measure that if it's through accreditation or others, and then to tie the state licensure exams to those standards to ensure that those candidates have actually learned this and can do it in their classroom. And you see the same thing for sitting teachers who maybe never got this in their training and need that professional development.
Thank you. Ms. Gentles, on both sides there's an argument whether President Trump and the Department of Education is undermining public school. And because of the work done to expand school choice, do you think there's a truth to that argument?
Consistently, studies show that when states have implemented school choice programs, the nearby public schools have benefited. So increasing competition inspires innovation, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So we were pleased to see the executive order from the president supporting expanding school choice, educational freedom. And we're also pleased to see the executive order ordering the Secretary of Education to look into dismantling the Department of Education within federal law, and with the understanding that the Secretary will be working with Congress on that, because we do think that freeing up federal regulations, freeing up states from federal regulations, from monitoring, from compliance, all the time that all those bureaucrats at the state and district level are spending on federal paperwork is going to benefit public education. It's going to benefit public school students. It's going to benefit public school educators.
Do you think we should give more power back to the states when it's education?
Absolutely. We need to give power to the states. I think we've heard such great news today on what strong state leaders, sensible state leaders implementing common sense policies are doing. It's very encouraging to see what's happening. We didn't mention Louisiana, but Louisiana is a bright spot amidst the 2024 NAEP scores, the only state where fourth grade reading scores exceeded pre-COVID results.
More so than Alabama?
Alabama's pretty awesome too. It's been referred to as the Southern Surge. There's really good news coming out of the states, and encouraging that, fostering that is absolutely the right direction. Education policies set at the state level, and let's foster that, and let's get the federal government out of the way.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to Chairman Cassidy. Thank you, Senator Kane.
So what's the takeaway here, Patriots? It's simple. Our kids don't need more red tape. They need real reading programs. They need competition. They need accountability. And above all, they need freedom from federal control. The sudden surge we're seeing in states like Alabama and Louisiana proves one thing. When states lead, students succeed. When parents have choice, schools improve. And when we push back against Washington's grip, we win. If you believe in school choice, if you believe in local control, if you believe in putting America first, then it's time to get involved. Show up at school board meetings. Support your local charter schools. Demand better curriculum. And yes, vote out the bureaucrats who are keeping our kids locked in failing institutions. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more truth the mainstream media won't tell you. Drop a comment. Do you support dismantling the Department of Education? Let's get the conversation started. This is the fight for our future. And we're just getting started. Cheers, and may the United States of America get even more blessed.